Considering that Xiaolin Chronicles has a Christmas episode, which for me personally, thinking about it, just made me think of how Xiaolin Showdown did an episode that was a lot more better, that wasn't a holiday episode. There was a reason onto why the original series didn't have a holiday episode, and the reason why I'm reviewing this is because even though that they introduce a zombie Shen Gong Wu that turns people into zombies, this episode, Night of the Sapphire Dragon, actually felt like a zombie episode, but at the same time, the Sapphire Dragon is a lot more when it's being put in the wrong hands. Mainly of how unpredictable a Shen Gong Wu like that could do to the characters of this episode. The episode begins with the main characters heading to a volcano where a Shen Gong Wu has been activated, but since that they don't know what the Wu is, they mostly do the research on it mainly from Kimiko after only won it from Jack Spicer in the Xiaolin Showdown. Unfortunately, doing the research, Kimiko scratched on the Shen Gong Wu, which causes it to turn Kimiko into that. The Shen Gong Wu can turn people into solid, frozen in place, which leads to the other characters except Dojo getting solid as the episode progressed. And with everyone being into solid Sapphire or Sapphire Frozen, whatever you prefer, they're in full control of the Sapphire Dragon, no matter what. The plot of this episode is simpler considering that this is part of the first season of the show, and considering that this Shen Gong Wu doesn't appear until the third season, they had a lot of ideas involving Shen Gong Wu in Xiaolin Showdown. If we're gonna be perfectly honest, if Jack Spicer won the Xiaolin Showdown with the Sapphire Dragon in his possession, I'm pretty sure that he will have no other choice but call the other characters for help. Believe me when I say this, since that Jack Spicer gets flanderized as the series progresses, he would still do the same if they encountered the Sapphire Dragon way later in the season instead of early on. Then again, the result would have been the same even if Jack Spicer won the Xiaolin Showdown. The episode, as it continues on, a character gets captured, not really captured, but turned into Sapphire, which is the same thing as when a zombie bits a human that turns them into zombies. And even though in the following season it introduces a Shen Gong Wu that turns people into zombies, this episode still contains the horror aspects of a character being frozen, mainly in Sapphire, while turning into a zombie afterwards. And while all the characters don't turn into zombies right away up until the second half, I have to admit that the horror aspects is still similar to a character being turned into a zombie due to the amount of zombies that are all over the place. And with Dojo being the main character of all this, it makes it really humorous, but also intelligently brilliant, considering that Dojo is the total opposite of the Sapphire Dragon. The reason of why the Sapphire Dragon was hidden in the volcano is because it isn't immune to lava or fire. Which, in this case, fire is better than Sapphire, and even though that water is better than fire, you can really tell that red takes the cake over blue when it comes to fire over Sapphire. Considering that Find the Wu, which is what the Xiaolin Showdown is called in this episode, it's really mediocre in comparison to the other Xiaolin Showdowns, which is really saying a lot considering that the main focus of the episode was the Shen Gong Wu itself, and the Xiaolin Showdown itself, it's mainly an indication that Omi and Jack Spicer shouldn't search for the Wu, considering what the consequences it would cause to them. Yes, they do need all of the Shen Gong Wu in the world, but at the same time, you can really tell that Wuya will probably think otherwise since that she doesn't appear in this episode whatsoever. So, the Sapphire Dragon is literally the only Shen Gong Wu that Wuya has no interest in, since that we don't get to see her opinions and her obsession with a Sapphire Dragon. Though then again, it had nothing to do with creating Mama John, but still. And for the way of how Dojo defeated the Sapphire Dragon due to Clay's Texas barbecue sauces that he has, he uses it in order to use a huge fire-breathing attack against the Sapphire Dragon. If they made Kimiko the main character of this episode, it wouldn't even work out because 2 episodes after this, the Star Anabi had revealed itself, and it would probably be too late for Kimiko to possess that power in order to use it against the Sapphire Dragon. Which, for me personally, seeing her saying that position's filled after Dojo was showing off in order to prove to his friends that he is actually a Dragon Warrior or a Xiaolin Warrior, maybe he had more of a reason, but at the same time, he probably had the upper hand because if the Sapphire Dragon uses its abilities against Dojo, mainly turning him into Sapphire like the other characters, it would probably be ineffective. But that's mainly my prediction. I found this episode a lot more interesting, which is why I had reconsidered on reviewing this episode in October over the last several years. Granted, it may be over-exaggerating, but considering that this episode did center around the zombie aspects despite not introducing the Shen Gong Wu that turns people into zombies later on, it still feels like an episode that involves around horror aspects, which I'm pretty sure Xiaolin Chronicles probably have in Halloween episode, but I'm not going to bother. Even if you may disagree with me, keep in mind, the aspects centering around this episode involving the Sapphire Dragon is saying a lot that this episode is somewhat horror-related and zombie-related. Because when I typed in Xiaolin Showdown Halloween, this episode was one of the results. No joke, type that in and you'll get your answer. I'm giving this episode a 7.5 out of 10.